Shit.
Back Home Media.
Hello.
Hey, everybody.
Hey.
Good evening, and welcome to Dark Horse Slate. We are your hosts, Martha, Ro, and Caitlyn. We are live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. DHS is brought to you by Back Home Media. Visit backhomemedia.com for a variety of entertaining live streams, podcasts, business management services, website design and management, social media management, IT support and management, audio, video production, and more. Media that brings you back home.
Well, thanks for coming and joining us tonight, guys. Marty and Caitlyn, how you guys doing tonight? Everybody good?
Good. It's been a while. We feel a little out of practice here.
Yeah, so bear with us, guys.
Yeah.
But, you know, we like to do these shows when we can. I mean, obviously, it's an ongoing discussion. It's evolving. There's always things coming up. And it's been a pretty interesting week, to say the least, as far as what's going on in the news. And we felt, hey, let's hop on. Let's share some thoughts. Maybe you guys got questions, got some comments, you know, anything you guys want to share with us. Our producer will definitely bring it up to us, and we'll address it to the best of our ability. So I want to start off by paying some homage to a pretty great American, somebody that I used to support in 2012, a guy named Herman Cain. I think y'all have heard of him. He's a Kansas City guy, and he passed away this morning. It's kind of sad. I heard the news. I was like, what the heck? And you know, and really it's a big deal because, well, not just because he's a known entity in the political realm, but also because, you know, he passed away from COVID. And I'm sure obviously so many people have, but it's a shame because this guy, you know, he was kind of in the end of it all, like, not wanting to believe the severity of the situation. He goes to the Trump rally, and by the understanding of that I have and what's been said in the media, and from what I understand that his family is agreeing to, is that he caught it at that rally. And so he fought the good fight, and he didn't make it. And for that is a sad situation. And I just want to pay respect to him, and hope his family's doing well, and all his close friends. So you know, it's just a reminder to me about how this thing is, you know, and how the narrative has changed, guys, from like this. It's funny because, you know, you guys deal with it, I deal with it in the aspect that everybody believes that this thing is fake, that kind of has that mentality. Mm-hmm. And so when you see one of these figures pass away from something that they believe they were supporting and doing the right thing and supporting Trump, it cost him his life, and it didn't have to. And I'm not saying it's Trump's fault by holding that rally, but you can't say that he's not accountable, because everybody was screaming, "Hey, don't do it." He did it, and now this happened, and there's just no way around that. You can't say that it didn't happen because of that. It's just undeniable. What do you guys think?
It's pretty sombering. Each like 10 days, it seems, or even shorter sometimes, incrementally feels more escalated than the last. And so it's I don't know about everybody else, but you're either inundated first thing with the news every morning, or you're trying to make a conscious decision to slow down your intake, or to you know, really, like, on purpose observe the updates, and those ones are hard to watch, especially over, I would say, from Thursday to Tuesday, this week still. The events on C-SPAN have been very intriguing, up to, you know, what's been released in regards to COVID still. And I think arguably the conversation is less that it's a hoax which I'm grateful for. But there's definitely still, it's so highly politicized. It's very hard to see that we're taking anything seriously in this discussion or even in our actions to get this under control at all. It's not okay right now.
You're absolutely right. And speaking of that, so here we are as of the end of today. Based on Worldometer, we had an additional 68,569 cases today, 1,465 deaths, by far the highest daily count of deaths we've had in quite some time. I wish people would just kind of stop for a minute and just realize that this information is in real time is the best way to really get a grip on what's going on, because just about 3.5 weeks ago, heck, 2 weeks ago, we were down in the low hundreds, and you almost started to believe that, hey, maybe we're out of the woods. I mean, some people wanted to believe, but obviously when you saw the cases start to ramp up again, we were going from like 16,000. One day was 12, 13,000 one day, which was at the lower points that we had. And then boom, next thing you know, it's 50,000, 60,000, 70,000, 78,000. And so people would say, well, yeah, but we're only 300 deaths. We're only 400 deaths. So and then all the experts say what? They say, well, there's going to be a delay. You don't get COVID today and die tomorrow. You might battle for a month, 5 weeks, 8 weeks.
That's true.
So here we are. We're right. We're getting right back to where we were, 30 days after the shutdown, and here we go. And yet through it all, people are pretty numb to what needs to take place in a lot of the hot zones, in places that are having some of the smaller clusters. And it's just gonna do its thing throughout the entire country, little by little. And it's just unfortunate, because the steps that we could do to not have to go through this are not that complicated, but here we go, right? So we've said this stuff before, guys. We're not saying anything new that y'all haven't heard from us, but we're going to keep saying it, because until it's proven wrong and until the information shows that we're out of the woods, what other choice do we have? Because nobody here has an agenda. We're just watching the same stuff you guys are watching,
right?
And trying to make sense of it for ourselves and for those we care about. So let's look at this whole Trump thing. I found a little 2-minute short little video. Trump is a pretty boastful guy. He's pretty prideful. Before we start the video, I just want to point out the fact that this guy, I think he's reeling. I feel like he's seeing some genuine concerns about his legacy, his reelection. He went so far as this morning to say, I don't trust mail-in ballots. Maybe we should suspend this election. Holy shit. He said it. And however you feel about it, for it or against it, through all this madness, we got armed troops running the streets in certain parts of the city, Democratic controlled suburban areas, or urban areas, and we got unnamed troops rounding people up. It's some crazy Bosnia type action in some cities in the US. Be thankful that you're not in one of them. I'm not in one of them, but it's happening. So anyways, I just want to kind of let you know where this guy's mindset is. It's a little dangerous. I have to admit it. To me personally, I feel it's a little dangerous. And as you guys listen to this, just keep in mind what we're dealing with as you hear what he's got to say. It's just 2 minutes. I hope you guys can just listen to it, and then we can share our thoughts about what he says.
Okay.
And the 15 within a couple of days is going to be down to close to zero.
And this is their new hoax.
Yeah, no, I don't take responsibility at all, but it's something that we have tremendous control. Cure could be worse than the problem itself. We can do this by Easter. Nobody would have ever thought a thing like this could have happened.
It will go away. Just stay calm. It will go away.
This is voluntary. I don't think I'm going to be doing it to crush the virus, and that's happening. We're going to be listening also to the great doctors. We're very close to a vaccine. The disinfectant, it knocks it out.
The government, federal government, rose to the challenge, and this is a great success story.
This is going to go away without a vaccine. We have met the moment, and we have prevailed.
Many of these people aren't very sick, but they still go down as a case. So it's dying out.
There is no second wave coming.
You're going to have a kid with the sniffles, and they'll say it's coronavirus. Going to sort of just disappear, I hope. Getting under control. A nation must care for its own citizens first. I think we are in a good place.
We know how to flatten these curves.
It will probably, unfortunately, get worse before it gets better.
So, how did you guys like seeing that July? Boy, couple million, and we doubled up this month. Doubled up. So everybody says, well, okay, we're doing more testing. A lot of Facebook friends say, well, we're doing more testing. Yeah, we were testing at 3 to 5% positive rates back then. In some areas, 17, 20% positive rates, 9, 10%, you know. So we anywhere from triple to quintuple, whatever you want to say, just a really huge spike in positive outcomes. And here we go. So, but going back to Trump, I mean, how do you guys feel? I'm asking the audience, and I'm asking, you know, my co-hosts here. How does it make you feel as an American to have a leader who just basically just talks shit and basically talks out of his ass and says whatever he thinks at the moment without really thought? I mean, how do you feel about that?
I feel like, sorry, I just want to make a quick comment just watching that. There was a lot of wishful thinking in that. You know, all of his comments were just like, well, it'll go away or whatever. That's concerning because it's not. And he finally donned a mask, right? Was it 2 weeks ago?
Roughly, yeah.
But having seen him wear one since, one of the most recent expressions I've heard on some correspondent interview is that eventually I will be right. I mean, they had this incredibly argumentative Trump calling for his team to pull facts in during this interview situation. And then at the end, well, you know, whatever we discuss here, eventually I'll be right.
Yeah.
And I don't even know what that means or why.
Yeah.
That would be.
It's a strange comment.
Yeah. I mean, it is just hoping that it goes away and wishing that it goes away and using excuses. And
this situation currently was preventable. That's the most heartbreaking thing.
Right.
And so something else that I saw over the weekend was people from other countries responding to the information that's happening here in America.
Mm-hmm.
And most of them, by the end of having a slight comprehension of everything that's happened here, were in tears. Because that's never the thing you're supposed to. That's never the thing that you think you'll look up one day and go, is that really the state of America currently? It's very...
You want to know something interesting?
Always.
At the time of the early start of the shutdown, the average age of cases was about 65, 68.
The median age of infection, right? Contraction, infection.
Better way to phrase it, yes. Right now, 41, 42 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that Kelly said on Tuesday, is it Tuesday she does the briefs? Or Mondays?
It's Tuesdays.
Okay, thank you. I was like, I want to say Tuesdays with the 4 days from Friday. In Kansas, on average, so not necessarily everybody who's hospitalized, but in Kansas, on average, the median age of infection is now 37. So you don't even have that argument anymore of it being, yeah. that was a hard brief to listen to. 103 out of 105 counties are now infected. So there aren't, it's very scary to be having a full-on conversation about opening schools when we went from counties having no infections to now only having 2 that are unaffected.
Right.
And it's great that we have this information, but what scares me, we had a debate as we look forward to seeing that in its final when in its release, which we're excited. I'm curious to see how that turned out. That was an interesting night, to say the least. And but one of the questions that was asked to us was if it was a good idea to mix who collects this data to give us accurate information. And it just so happened that week that the CDC, they show up to work one morning, they open up their database, and the information is gone. I mean, can you imagine how scary that must have been for these guys? I mean, did they screw it up? Did somebody hack the system? I mean, they're just kind of like, I mean, just think about your own daily work. You show up to work, you pull up your info, it's gone. Marty, your client list is gone. Everything's just gone. You would freak out. I mean, you would freak out.
Definitely.
So we knew that Trump wanted to pull the information to HHS. So we see, and Laura Garrett, as you guys know, I trust her. I think she's awesome. She's a Pulitzer Prize winner. She knows her shit. And so she lets the world know through Twitter that the information being gathered is through a private company now.
Right.
So, and the information as of yesterday had not been updated since July 23rd officially. Luckily, Worldometer has a way to circumvent that information and get places like this. And is it St. John's? They're able to get information directly through the hospital recordings. I'm not going to sit here and tell you how it's done, but we're still able to get that real information. But a vast majority of outlets are not. And so why did they make that move? And why did a private company get it? So is there some cronyism there? It bothered the shit out of me. It really did. I'm like, who got the big contract, like the Remdesivir deal? A couple $2 billion given to them for what? For I can't think of the name of the company offhand, but the bottom line is that Moderna, right?
Oh, Moderna. I was thinking Gilead.
Maybe you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, they don't have anything on the market that's been approved by the FDA that we administer, but yet they get the big contract. And now we find out that this information being gathered is going to be through another private company. I mean, goodness gracious, guys. So
acknowledging that the problem from the beginning was that we were supposed to be definitely set up to be equipped for something of this nature, and then incrementally along the way took ourselves out at the knees in handling the situation. And again, that's a very hard thing to cope with, to understand. It just, it's very hard to have a conversation about it with anybody without you feeling a sort of heaviness at the end, or
because of what side you're on.
You know what's funny about this whole what side you're on?
Believe. Yeah.
No, I'm glad you bring that up.
It is. It's what side you're on.
We went from this whole idea that it's a big hoax, and then it goes from it's a big hoax to, oh, we know that there's a cure. But I'm like, wait a minute, why do we need a cure for a hoax?
Okay. And also, you're really not supposed to say, don't say there's a cure.
Absolutely. So we have a group of white coats at the Capitol, very dramatic, very theatrical, and it caught wildfire like pandemic. And it's just like, hold on a minute. I mean, as soon as I saw that, guys, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. I was like, I don't believe in censorship. I don't like that it's taken down because I feel like that just fuels the fire. But at the same time, And I've had a few conversations with people, some friends. I'm like, you can't say cure.
Yeah.
I'm like, you can't say we have a cure. Don't put on your mask. Don't keep your kids here, or don't worry about anything. Take this as a prophylactic, and it's a cure. I mean, how do you say that with so many people catching it every day? And it's kind of to me, it's kind of a slap in the face to the medical community. I mean, personally, people that I know that are in the medical field who are dealing with this. I mean, I live in a city. My sister's in a pretty high level in the medical field, and I have a client that's in the medical field, and these people deal with this stuff firsthand. So I'm not hearing information through media outlets. I'm not watching YouTube videos on some of this stuff. I'm talking to people as I'm talking to you guys firsthand. I'm like, so what's up with this stuff?
Right.
And to me, I'm like, for these guys to get up there and basically call them all liars and fabricators of information, I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. And now there's information coming out about some of these doctors that aren't even currently licensed. They live off in some far off area where there really is no heavy
frontline experience with COVID, I think.
Precisely.
Their website just what was it, 2 weeks ago? Their website, they just started their website.
Yeah, so on Tuesday when it came out, it had been like they had established themselves 12 days prior. And I think that's what I meant to say earlier, was that the information has been censored from the beginning, or because we don't have this sort of collective understanding of who we're going to trust, rather, like, obviously it's not the media, but what experts, it has become so politicized that from the beginning we don't know what information to trust. So there are all of these arguments about what goes on. So when it's first suggested that hydroxychloroquine, I'm going to say that wrong every time probably, was going to work, wasn't going to work, and then we've learned all of these new things, that because this issue is vascular, that the intubation is different now, as we should be gathering this knowledge and as we grow. It was personally devastating to wake up and find out that that we're again arguing about something that is just largely in the scientific community unfounded. And you cannot say that to people who want to believe that this is going to be the cure, because we need to get back to things. There are people that I've seen who have been in the medical field who have shared this, and I'm not sure if I want to say that it's more in an informational sense, unless that they're sharing it because that's what they believe, but isn't that equally detrimental? Whether, as much as it's getting shared, this has become detrimental to the progress of what's actually going to keep us well, healthy, fighting this. It's more simple than having these arguments all the time.
What I noticed, though, is people that I guess they look at media as biased, and they are very vocal about things being biased. But the white coat, let me pull it up. He's got that article up there. The Tea Party Patriots are part of the Save Our Country coalition. So it's an alliance of conservative groups formed earlier this year to end regional lockdowns. That in itself is biased, is it not? I mean,
that's all in the title.
Right. But I guess what I'm saying is I don't see people acknowledging that bias. You know what I mean? Their own bias. No, this is solid truth. This backs that it's not that bad. That it's taken, it's blown out of proportion. But you have to look who's behind it. Tea Party Patriots. Nothing wrong with Tea Party Patriots, but it's obviously biased.
In the name, they're specifically wanting to end lockdowns, and so
right. And then some of the doctors, we learned about some of the doctors that are a part of this group. off the top of your head, I can't think of the name of one that was like a Pentecostal preacher.
Ella Emmanuel.
Yeah, she was the most theatrical by far.
Mm-hmm. Some of this, the things that she believes in, just wacky.
Well, I think that when for me, I was like, I watched her video, I listened to her whole thing, and I'm like, hey, have conviction, stand up for something, or you'll fall for anything. I get that.
Right.
But when she goes the next morning and says, if Facebook doesn't put my video back up, then God is going to destroy you. And to me, I'm like, first of all, and I'm not here to preach to anybody, but that is a very terrible way to try to use God's message for one. In my opinion, I'm like, that's prideful. That's not your place.
Right.
To tempt.
She had shared it on her YouTube page. I mean, the video wasn't gone from the face of the internet.
Right.
Obviously, we're troubleshooting
Facebook's
how to
just like,
share
I'm
this.
not going to support it.
Yeah.
Facebook's like, I'm not going to support it. YouTube's like, I'm not going to support it either because you're saying it's a cure, and it's just not. And so,
in any other circumstance, most of America would be outraged.
Absolutely.
If something else is happening and somebody popped up and said, "Here's this cure," we would be like, "Oh well," and then investigate everything backward. And I don't know how or where I do because we're living in a time where we all forget our sins, and I know we're doing the best we can, and so I'm really trying to learn how to ingest this in a much more relaxed manner and not letting it all overwhelm me so much. And
they claim that they're frontline doctors, but we're finding out that their practices do not actually put them on the front lines. So there's that.
Is it any
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just want to ask you something real quick, Marty. Okay.
No, go ahead.
Is it any shock that one of those guys was the dude that owns the urgent cares in California that was all over viral in the early stage? That dude was there talking about how he was forced to mark COVID deaths. You work at an urgent care. What urgent care? I'm dying and I'm bleeding. I'm going to go to the urgent care with my $40 copay to save my life. That may or may not have an X-ray machine. That's where I'm going to go, and then they're going to count me alive or dead and why I died.
Mm-hmm.
Total bullshit. I'm like, think for a minute, people. Anyway, I just wanted to share that because I saw that guy's name on the list, and I'm like, hey, I know that guy. That guy's still trying to hold on to his 15 minutes of fame.
Dan Erickson. Yeah,
yes.
Dan Erickson.
That's him.
Yeah, he's in the list of doctors as well. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, and the few posts that I saw yesterday, day before, it was prefaced, there is a cure. They're hiding it from us, or we're not getting all the information. There is a cure. So here we are again.
It's brilliant marketing.
It is. It's great. And I go back and forth about the censorship. I don't know how you guys feel. I think I asked this in our group, but it just kind of adds fuel to the fire, doesn't it, though, when they censor? Now, Caitlyn brought up a good point. Facebook is a privately owned company. They are not censoring free speech. It's not the government. It's not a government platform.
Exactly.
It's a private, right. So they can pull whatever they want.
I don't know how true this is because I began to see it pop up in these C-SPAN lives that I've been watching, and many people were complaining about beyond being fact-checked on Facebook or being I've been calling it lower Facebook jail, where I am restricted on my means of sharing. And so I'll have to troubleshoot how to get around that by changing the link source or just various different ways. And I don't know if anyone else is experiencing that, but I've also seen and sort of giggled at in the beginning that that their content is being changed. And I may have seen proof of that scrolling through today, that a user will share whatever source originally and the link has been transformed into the opposite message of what was originally shared. That is, to me, beyond the original question. If that's fascinating, I mean, I don't, I didn't see the original link, or that it, like, we can easily edit those things to be different. I would need to like try to find those snapshots, but I would be interested in the audience comments. If you've witnessed that, if that's happened to you personally. Again, we're private users on this platform that we're giving consent to all the time by participating. So,
and I thought about it, even with the pandemic, I thought, okay, the whole censorship aspect of it, I didn't like it for the same reasons you guys just mentioned, but I had to respect that it's their prerogative, as it is our prerogative to use or not use Facebook or YouTube or whatever. I'm always of the mindset, make a better one if you have a problem with it, but nobody's going to, because you're not going to make a better one.
Right.
It's just the reality of it. And so we have to just, just keep on. And so, but going back to what these ladies or these doctors were claiming, I keep thinking of those two primary ladies that kept talking through that whole thing. I saw an article that was supported by the Henry Ford Clinic, and the article states hydroxychloroquine significantly reduces your risk of COVID-19. Like, wow, that's pretty profound. That's an attention getter. So yeah, there we go. Thank you, Mr. Producer.
Yes, there it is.
It's like significantly, which you think, holy crap, significantly. If I, that is not a word you just throw around on such a serious situation. So as you read through the details, and I guess in some aspect, if you compound it over a course of millions of people, maybe there is something to it. But the study showed like a 2% to 4% difference in results. And even then, the results were not necessarily clear. I mean, it tells you at the very end, it's like, well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. It's kind of like, there's a lot of external factors, what the underlying conditions were of the patients. All these different factors that come that basically spell what this thing is. And so when you look at it from that lens, I'm like, well, is the 26 to 22% significant? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I mean, and does that number change from 26 to 22 to 26 to 25.8 when you multiply it over an exponential number of millions of people? We don't know. And that's the problem with these things. I believe in statistics can lie, and liars will throw statistics. And I'm not calling myself a liar. I'm just saying, I'm just reading what this thing says. And so I just thought, it's a great attention getter. And I'm wondering how many people are looking at this and may not even read the whole detail
I was going to say, I don't remember that one specifically, and reading through that one fully. Is this the one where, does it mention at all comparing it to a group of placebo?
Yes.
Okay, I was like, am I getting ahead of myself, or is that because so if you're talking about percentages, does it even clarify that the result, that the result would be better by taking the drug? I mean, like, it's the same in the placebo factor as it is if you are taking the drug. So there really is, there's like, I mean, what kind of evidence do you have that it performs better if you're on the drug?
Right. And the biggest thing about this drug, and I have a very trusted, I have a bond I'm building with somebody who really I never thought I'd have a friendship with, but he's a trauma surgeon. He deals with not just surgery, but he deals with people coming in fighting for their lives, and he dealt with the Lansing outbreak in the prison there, with the people that died through that, and with a lot of the prisoners that got sick. He was right in the thick of that. That was his job. And I mentioned to this at his house. I'm like, so what do you think about this drug? He's like, and he's a very smart man. Obviously, he's highly qualified. He's like, it's bullshit. He's like, it's total bullshit. He's like, the whole purpose of the drug, he's like, and what it's used for, it's like it's basically to relieve inflammation. He's like, but the drug itself is not a long sustaining therapy for COVID. He's like, it doesn't solve anything. He's like, if you administer to people and they get relief, well, maybe that relief in some ways was a way to give their bodies a chance to slow down. So it's not that it's a useless drug. Nobody's saying it's useless. What he's saying is that if your body is not set up to deal with steroids, and here's what I know, you can die. He's like, in fact, he goes, he pointed out to me that there were people that they dealt with that died because of hydroxychloroquine. People that were their bodies weren't able to handle it. Like, you think about your breathing situation. Like, I know right now that if you are a regular breathing person, I dare you. Actually, I don't dare you. Don't do it. Don't go take an inhaler. Don't.
Right.
You feel a little wheezy, you got a cough. Do not take an inhaler. Do not go take Primatene Mist, because it's probably going to kill you, because it's like a shot of adrenaline to your heart. And so these drugs, what he says, the heart arrhythmias and all these things that it's causing, is like, you can't treat that on a regular basis. He's like, and if you are, you have to be closely monitored. I have another friend who takes it for rheumatoid arthritis, and every 3 months he's got to get checked for his level of blindness. And he's
level of what?
Blindness. Losing his sight. Yes. Losing his vision. He's like, well, do I get worse vision, or do I just sit in utter pain because it's an inflammatory drug? So at the end of the day, no, it's not a cure. If it was a cure, then we wouldn't have COVID. It's that simple. Mm-hmm. Nobody's making money on COVID. When the government said, hey, let's give everybody free tests, okay. I mean, think about it, man. It's just like, it makes no sense. Like, where, the opportunists that are out there, like the remdesivir thing, maybe there is some money to be made somewhere, but globally, China didn't shut down their system. Oh, we talked about China. He mentioned China, and I was like, so explain that to me. He's like, well, when that disease, when it broke out the way it did there, he's like, it was a very, very centralized group of people that it hit, the weakest of the weak that it hit. So they put them in their buildings, they locked them up, they shut everybody else away and let them die. And that's why they were able to control their setup. He's like, America doesn't have a collateral damage type mentality. He's like, so, because I was asking him, like, how is it that we're so screwed and everybody else is not? And he's like, because America doesn't listen well. And what you have to do to make it actually stop, we're not going to do that. No. He's like, Americans aren't built that way. He goes, and that's the right thing to do. But there are all there's other measurements that you can do, things that we can do as a society that will help us greatly, but we're not doing it. Now, guys, I want you to realize that 2 months ago, and I'll get to you, Caitlyn, that 2 months ago, I had the same conversation with this man going out there to look at his project. And I asked him what he thought about COVID 2 months ago. He said, well, just get herd immunity. I was like, really? And I was kind of like, dude, you're not a doctor. You're not. I'm like, I left her mad. I'm like, man, I've been reading so much on this crap, man. You don't know what you're talking about. So he deals with the 11 word or the Lansing deal. Mm-hmm. And so we talked about it. I was like, so what changed your mind? I asked him, Tim, what changed your mind? He said, it mutates.
Oh, okay. This is the part I wanted to hear about. Yeah.
Not the same disease that it was then. Mm-hmm. He's like, we have verified 3 mutations. He's like, there's probably more, but there's a key 3. He's like, and the ones that were early on, he goes, people in November, December that thought they were sick and had COVID. He goes, they probably did, but that was a different one. Mm-hmm. He's like, so what we're seeing now at this 3rd round, which is what's in Florida, which really is a concern, is that one's going to mutate again.
That has serious implications for the future of testing. I was going to say differently than anyone else. Americans weren't. Not only were we not given tests to anybody who needed it, even within reason. Like there's a whole slew of people that didn't get it within reason, but people were denied tests, not only once, but more than once.
Multiple times.
Why? Like, it didn't happen like that anywhere else.
That's a frightening question with a probably worse answer. And take Taiwan, for instance. Taiwan was supposed to be the second most infected country in the world because it was next to China.
Mhm.
So China data comes out and they're like, BS, we don't believe anything you're saying, China. Lock it down. Shut everybody out. Nobody comes in, nobody goes out. No problem. They didn't stop their economy or anything. It's extreme, but that's what they did.
Mhm.
Because and as I asked this guy, I'm like, you know, going back to what happens next, he's like, look, he's like, I'll be frank with you. He's like, you're gonna get it and your body's gonna fight it. It overreacts because it doesn't recognize it. So your body's killing itself. He's like, it doesn't know what to do to control and level out in a lot of people, the weakest of the weak. Well, think about it. He's like, your common cold doesn't have a cure. It mutates every year. Same as the flu. And so what happens is you're going to get sick. You're going to deal with some problems. Then you're going to get it again. And it's going to compound the problems that you had before and on and on. And I'm like, wow, Tim. He's like, and he goes, and then it's going to mutate at the same time. And so, and then he goes, we're going to go through this winter and we're going to have flu and we're going to have pneumonia. And doctors are going to be struggling to figure out which one they're even dealing with, which one they're supposed to treat it with. He's like, it's going to be a disaster.
Again, because the more it has a chance to mutate, okay, so if we would have had the available and large amount of testing that other countries did to stop the first mutation and lock that down, the more that it's able to progress and we figure out that the antibodies last a shorter and shorter amount of time, you can sort of speculate as to how long it's going to take for the next mutation. It gets harder to deal with.
Right.
Exactly right. That's exactly right. And then you throw in all the other problems that the hospital systems are going to have. It's not good. And so we talked on the subject of school. You know, he just took his daughter back to New York. She goes to a school up there in Rochester, which isn't exactly, he's like, New York has gotten itself pretty under control. He's like, New York City itself is a ghost town. You know, he was able to go through part of it. Not the same New York that he's known his entire life. And I got other customers in New York.
Nothing is.
Yeah, they're like, it's so weird. They're like, New York is like New York, the city that never sleeps. It's the Mecca capital of the world. And it's like nothing. It's a shell of what it is. Thousands and thousands of restaurants and places are just no longer. They're never going to be again. So what I'm getting at, guys, is what do you feel that the deniers, I'm not going to call them hoaxers, I'm going to call them deniers, because what is it going to take for everybody to just say, you know what, let's work together on this?
I have something. I think that once cold and flu season starts and everybody's coughing and sneezing,
oh man, I know
the fear is going to be there and they're going to put on their masks. I mean, who wouldn't? I mean, we don't
have a lot of people wouldn't. A lot of people wouldn't.
But I feel like that's when people will start taking it more seriously, because cold and flu season already, people complain about going out sick or whatever, and people coughing in the store, and, schools have been shut down before. But add COVID into that. You don't know who has it. We get nervous when somebody coughs now. I mean, what's the comment? That today I ate some peanuts and I had one stuck in my throat, and it started scratching my throat.
I spit all the time.
Because I start kind of coughing. What's the first thing that you say is, I don't have COVID, it's fine within 30 seconds, but take that cold and flu season, people really blowing their nose, coughing, sneezing, hospitals filling up because of flu. I mean, we're going to have that. Absolutely. So we are going to see, in my opinion, a very different America.
What do you call that? Compounded. It'll become an extremely compounded situation.
It will. So, and I think there's going to be a lot of people humbled, because it is what it is, schools, here we are with schools. They've shut down, I think 2 years ago. Well, last year I know there was one school shut down for 2 weeks. You don't have the substitute teachers.
Shut down. Yeah.
They do because of the flu. So
if you don't have 50% capacity, right,
Right.
then you can't have school. And so, yeah, they will. I mean, it's not unprecedented. This guy doesn't know. I want to give him a shout out. This is pretty random. There's a comedian. His name is Devin Siebold. I couldn't spell it if I wanted. You'll have to look him up on Facebook. Crying in My Car podcast for teachers. So he is both a teacher and a comedian, and he's been pretty vocal online about a lot of things. I recommend checking it out. Already before the students have actually, he shared some of the schools that have already started, or certainly around the globe in those situations. So there's incoming evidence or some data on that, but already having reports of teachers saying that there is a positive COVID situation, and they've been asked by administration not to say anything.
Okay. There's that.
What are we supposed to do with that?
I think I don't know. I mean, gosh, as a parent and and having several children, as you guys know, to battle this with, I mean, we want our kids to go. I mean, we just do. I mean, we got to battle through. We got to be smart about it. The schools have got to be smart about it. But they got to go. I mean, there's a slow dying in your soul to not be around other people.
People, I know.
Especially at those ages. Can you imagine?
Well, scientifically, is it called touch starved? There are like variant terms for it, but as people were already missing out on platonic touching and like long paused hugging, things like that, we were already at a deficit with, and so this feels harder.
It's true
to keep distance, and
in the part that
so I'm compassionate
for so long too already.
And the part that, as a parent that you watch is that you see your kids and they're like, and social media makes nothing easier. Who's getting along with who's visiting who? Why am I not invited? Do they not like me anymore? I mean, it's just it's no good.
My children's whole world right now is social. And they've adapted from in presence to online social, being social, and there's just a variant of things that can occur.
Absolutely.
You want to encourage that social interaction, and so they can maintain those relationships, but that's more monitoring. Not that that's a complaint, but we are aware of or understand the risks of not being in person or not being allowed to go out in public, and there's always so much to think about every time. I think I get overwhelmed when I look back on that. Every choice for me is an exceptional situation at this point. Right. I have to weigh all the risks.
Because
is it worth it?
Right.
Yeah, and it's going to be different for every part of the country, and at what point do we possibly see states get more aggressive about no interstate travel? I mean, how do you stop this thing? Or it's just, I mean, I can't, I keep going over these stories in my mind, things I've shared with you guys that people have shared with me, these very horrible things that people are dealing with. And then you see people that aren't dealing with much, and and it's like, okay, well, which side of the coin am I going to flip? And it just sucks, man. It's so awful on so many levels, and I think that's why I'm just so glued to this topic, because it's impacted my life. Nothing impacts my life. I shrug everything off, but I can't shrug this off, man. It's just like, we talk about it at the dinner table. We talk about it, my wife and I, because it matters so much, because how it impacts those we care about, not because they're sick, but just because of the cause and effect of it all. And I wish to God people would just stop for a minute and get off the freaking, I almost think it's thrill seeking. I think it's boredom. I think it's like, conspiracy theories are cool. I can run with conspiracy theories with the best of them.
Yes, you can.
I can. I absolutely can.
He can. I've
and drive.
been there with him.
You have, and I think that you thought I started a conspiracy theory with this, Martha, in the very beginning.
Yep, I know.
She's like, this guy's crazy. He's full of shit. And I was like, okay,
I'm still here.
you're still here,
I'm with you.
and but there's been a lot of growth through this too, meeting with you guys and having this show and working with Ken and with Derek and everybody. It's just, I think people do want to hear what other people think and not just what the fancy media has to share and what's polished and not true raw thoughts and taking information that all three of us are looking at and having some sort of free thinking through the process. And I do feel that there's a lot on Facebook where it's like a freaking bot. I'm sorry, but I want
to definitely, because I've repeated this to my friends, or this has been part of the topic, that the extreme voices, especially the ones who are so mean about it,
Right,
whatever side you're on, are so minimal. So I feel like these conversations, or I guess my hope is that these conversations help other people understand that your regular neighbor probably doesn't feel at all like that argument that you just had on Facebook that's got you all fired up. Those are minority people with very loud voices, and we've got to be able to find those in pattern. Those they're just better at the game.
Good point. That's a good way to put it. They really are.
And we've got to just remember, if I just need some kindness today, I bet my neighbor's feeling the same way. I bet they're not like that guy I just having an argument with on the internet. And I'm guilty of this. I will have had a whole day of defending my viewpoints or shelling out data and blah, blah, blah. And then I'll come home and somebody that I love and care about makes mention of one thing. And then I will just go off and they have no reference to all that context I've dealt with throughout the whole day. But now there's this certain heightened situation because that's what I've been dealing with. And
well, here's a question that was asked to me, and it's by my loving wife, who she's awesome, and she says to me, "Hey, this is great. You know so much. Great, good for you. But what do you do? What is the information good for? How do you solve it?" And I have an answer. I do have an answer, but I think we all have that answer. And so she is somebody who deals with it very closely as well. She's an HR. She deals with cases. She deals with 1,000 people through the county. And so she's hearing about these positive cases and people are freaking out. Mm-hmm. And so, what is the action plan? And I'm like, well, aren't we supposed to look to these highly paid experts? Aren't we supposed to look to these highly elected officials? That's what they're there for. I'm not supposed to have to think, but you know what? Chris Martinson said in March, we're on our own.
Yes.
It's very frustrating that it's very apparent that the people who are supposed to be the ones that we look to in this have zero accountability. So where is it's easy to feel, you're unrooted in a situation where who was supposed to guide us in their leadership in these situations didn't do that, can make those excuses, and then have no accountability, or somehow get away with it because of their leadership. And it's
right. And it's politicians at the end of the day. Why do you think Fauci takes so many hits? Why is he the man to take the brunt of the hits? Why?
Well, the obvious reason is he's out there in his title and he started a lot of the press conferences. I mean, I'm just telling you off the top of my head.
Sure.
I will say that the issue that I probably have with Fauci and other people have with Fauci, and I get it, is maybe the change in what he has said too, going from no masks at the beginning.
He admitted it though. He said, I had to say that. At least he had the cojones to say, I had to. Unlike the other guy who's like, I didn't do anything wrong. These guys are all the ones that are
Right.
making the mistakes.
I really trusted him at the beginning. I really felt like this guy is smart. He knows what he's talking about. He has been, with the HHS, right? Is that correct?
NAIA.
NAIA, yeah. Since the 80s, right? I really felt that way, but I think what chipped away at my trust is vocal people on Facebook putting seeds of doubt in your head. I mean, I had so many people, well, I can think of like 3 people mention it. Last week when he was seen throwing out the first pitch with his mask on.
Right.
And then he was seen, you saw it, and then he was seen in the stands with his mask down. And oh my God.
I know. People were like, see, fraud.
Yeah, look, it's not real. And it's like, dude.
I know, man.
As soon as I walk 6 feet away, 10 feet away from someone and my back is to them and they're way over here, I pull off my mask and I take a deep breath. Who doesn't?
Cynthia makes a great point, though, that Fauci has been with
consistent.
Several presidents.
Yes.
Maybe that's part of the problem to some people, that denotes a lack of loyalty with a certain administration. I don't know. I'm playing devil's advocate here.
No, that's fine.
Go ahead, Mark.
Well, I feel like I feel like that's why I trusted him, because he was with different administrations. It wasn't like he came in with the Trump administration, and he was with Obama. He was with Bush. They all have different politics.
You want to know what people want to point to when it comes to Fauci is the AIDS pandemic.
Yes, because of the mistakes.
There were mistakes.
There
and
were mistakes made.
It was a political game then too. You couldn't
Right.
say who was most at risk or you were homophobic. He couldn't win in that. I did some reading on that. He couldn't win on that. There was no freaking way he was going to win on that. And at the end of the day, it was a very tough disease to solve. It still is to this day.
Sure.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the two doctors that sort of broke ground on even beginning to touch patients so that they could get treatment was, please tell me if I'm wrong, a woman and a Black doctor.
One of them was definitely a woman. I don't know about the other one.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But certainly the people who are left in the back of the group in that age where, hey, maybe this isn't contagious in the way that we think it is. I mean, that was blown way out of
Rolando and I know you're a few years younger than us, but Rolando and I are pretty close to the same age. It was an all-out panic as a kid. I remember.
Don't go to the pool, you'll get AIDS.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, that person spit, they could have AIDS. It was crazy.
Do you remember when you were like, I'm a little girl sitting on a toilet seat, and I remember I was in Houston, Texas. This is way off topic, but I mean, just the pandemonium, the panic, the fear. We think people are scared about this. AIDS, oh my gosh. I was in Houston at a pool, and I sat on it was in a pool. I sat on a toilet, and I fretted. I thought I had AIDS for like 2 weeks.
Honestly,
that's how we were. I mean, it was
misinformation.
Time.
And what it comes down to is that you take this guy's, I mean, the whole thing was nuts. But let's look at everything since then. I mean, look at the outbreaks that we've had, and this guy's been there.
He has.
And they've set up protocols, and they've done all these things through HHS, through the CDC, through the WHO, on and on. And so we didn't have this, really. I mean, since that, if you think about it, nothing to this level, not even close. H1N1, as bad as it was, didn't touch this. I mean, as far as like,
no,
it just didn't do it. Not even, I mean, especially when you consider worldwide. Ebola had like what? We had like 3 to 5, 7 people that had that, which that could have been scary. But my point is that you got to go way back to really hit this guy, way back, almost like 40 years, and say, remember that one time 40 years ago when you did that one thing, you sucked that real bad? I mean,
Right,
God.
but it's notable again that he is willing to say I was wrong,
Yeah,
and
he's a human
to,
being.
as we all hope we are changing, as new information gets inputted, is that a word? Input into our edit. That that he would be able to correct himself and say,
Thanks,
that
Tina.
this is the best course of action.
Right.
So I think that we have to. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be a Trump basher, guys. I voted for the man, but at the end of the day, there's the problem. I'm sorry. It's just Trump's like that guy. Like if you make him look bad in front of your friends, he's going to be a passive aggressive guy for the rest of the night, and he's going to pick at you and pick at you and pick at you because you made everybody laugh at you at a joke that he was the butt of. I mean, that's the way he acts. It's a bully, man. I'm sorry, it just is, because this guy who's in his late 70s, he's probably at that point of his life where he's like, I don't have a filter. I'm an old ass man. I'm going to die soon. I don't need to hold anything back. And that's the way he acts. He is not political, at least not by comparison. So,
Right.
So when you look at him and you look and I'm not saying, in full circle, but the vast majority of the medical community and science community, they don't dog on that guy because he takes the hits that they don't have to.
Right.
That's the bottom line. That's the way I see it. I mean, and it just like that whole math thing you brought up, Martha. I mean, yes, I mean, and I had that conversation too, as we all have. I'm like, look, he's sitting with his wife and probably his best friend or a son. I don't know who that guy was. And there's literally nobody around.
Else around.
It's an empty freaking stadium for all intents and purposes. So the guy can't, like, it's probably 90 degrees. His face is sweaty.
Shoot,
he's like, I'm going to freaking breathe. Oh my gosh.
Right.
But he's a hypocrite? I think not. I'm sorry.
No, I called. I had to make a couple comments on Facebook.
And he does take his mask off. I've seen the press briefings where he's talking, he's got it on, everything breaks, and he pulls it off. But he's kind of just standing there. Mm-hmm. I'm like, this
may seem so silly, but this last weekend, Garden City Arts did the Sidewalk Talk event, and my whole family basically was attending. And very early in the morning when it starts, because these artists have 4 hours to do this event, there were way less people. I was much more comfortable being outside. Sure. Even my family members were spaced out so I could walk in between them and be able to social distance between other neighbors. And so, however, when it hit 10:30, 11 a.m., when people wanted to start coming to see what the artists were doing, I put a mask on because I wasn't, like, sometimes it's as little as, like, I don't want to make it awkward by walking around somebody a 6 foot distance when I can just put a mask on and not be awkward about it, because I'm an awkward person enough as it is. That, yeah, I mean, those situations are going to ebb and flow. And it was really hot. Exactly. Like, my face breaks out all the time right now because I've got a mask on all the time, and it's like there are all of these, like, consequences of being diligent about that stuff, but I will take it.
Right.
Well, guys, thanks for joining us. I think we're going to go ahead and call it a night. It's getting late for everybody. Yep. And Caitlyn, Marty, you guys are awesome always to talk to about this stuff. I appreciate the points of views you guys have. And for those of you guys listening in, thanks for taking time out of your night and giving us some of your time to listen to what we got to say. And I can't thank you enough for that. We're pretty passionate about this stuff. That's why we keep coming back. And so,
and definitely stay tuned. Some of us participated along with Mike Webb, if you've seen him on our show, and a couple of his friends participated in a debate with Mr. Tidwell as our moderator. It was a great learning experience. Be sure to stay tuned for Dark Horse to put that out
on Saturday, I believe. If you want more of this topic, so yeah, check that out. Those
were questions from community members, so it was great.
Yeah, it was great. It was fun to be a part of. Absolutely, I look forward to seeing it.
Let's do this again soon. Let's not let too much time pass in between.
I agree, guys. Well, let's definitely do that. Y'all have a great night. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Well, I don't think it, I thought it, that's different. I said what I said and I meant it, or lamented. Words given weight without thought in a person, the way that I talk and the way that I ought to be able to pause and to say that the fault can be placed on my arms. To this playful assault, to this race in this arm. Pray for the day they could wait for the calm. You can't control the storm, only weather it, whether it's 5 weeks and 5 days of rain sideways, or scorched earth, search for death or water left